The Atlanta Braves had what could be considered a disappointing trade deadline. Here's what Alex Anthopoulos had to say about it. Yes, welcome on into Braves Today, a production of the Belief Podcast Network and presented to you by FanDuel. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, author of the Braves Today newsletter over at bravestoday.com. And trade deadline was wild on Monday. A lot of transactions happened, not the ones we wanted. Wanted some help here, so I've got Gabe Burns of the AJC, the last AJC beat writer to win a World Series. I want to point that out. Here to break everything down from A's press conference in the day that was. Long day for you, Gabe. How you doing? Thanks for being here.
I'm good, man. I appreciate that introduction. It's definitely not something that I bring up to Justin and Chad ever, that I retired with the Braves being forever champions as far as my beat writer tenure is concerned.
You're like, listen, last game I ever officially covered as beat writer was a championship, and you don't have that.
It was the Soler homer, so I feel pretty good about that.
That's not a bad way to go out. And I want to get your thoughts on this trade deadline, because the general consensus amongst the public, if you've looked at social media in the course of Monday, is a little bit of disappointment and frustration about the trade deadline because the Braves never came away with that impact starter that we were all looking for. Before we get into what Alex actually said about it, what was your thoughts on the trade deadline and the team improving, but maybe not taking care of that biggest need?
Yeah, I think it was a real disappointment. And you can go through case by case. Why did deGrom not get done? I guess we know why that one didn't get done. But Detmers, you can just go through the names, right? And I just think it's a disappointment because there was so much hype, there was so much anticipation, and there were people inside of that building who were really giddy about this trade deadline. They thought that something, I don't necessarily want to say splashy or big, but they thought there would be an impact addition coming to this team, and they were pretty excited about it. And I think most people viewed the Braves as a team that just needed a couple things to be like that, to be a championship-worthy type of team. They improved. They made upgrades. I think we think they made upgrades.
Yeah.
But not in the way that we were expecting. And to me, you come away disappointed because, again, the team that you're trying to catch added probably the best lefty starter in the game. And then the Padres go out, they probably have the deadline that a lot of people wanted you to have, right? Adding those couple of guys. And so I would just characterize it, again, I think I've said disappointment like 3 or 4 times already, and we are 3 minutes into this podcast. So I think that kind of sums the day up.
Yeah, it hits all the notes there. I think what makes the Padres comparison, it's apt that you mentioned that, what makes it a little bit tougher is AJ Preller, obviously known to be a very aggressive GM, but just a little while ago, he talking to the media, he addressed the fact they traded 3 of their top 9 prospects for rental starters and said, quote, "We're trying to win. We don't apologize for it. We're trying to win championships. We're trying to get to the postseason and do it year after year." And the Braves are in a fundamentally different position, I feel like, than the Padres, where the Braves have built this process that they follow. They've built this above average roster at just about every position. They've got a lot of farm system depth for the first time in a while. And when you listen to AA in that press conference on Monday, it felt like he doesn't mention players by name almost ever, but it felt like he was defending their process, defending the idea of, we have these prospects and in essence, we valued them and we didn't want to overpay for something for just this season. Is that a fair characterization, or am I simplifying things a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think that they do stick to their process. They have a way of doing things from the top down, and this is not any kind of, y'all know this. They believe in building organically. They believe in the farm system, and it's hard to argue. If you want to make it black and white, it's hard to argue. You've had the two best sustained eras of success in franchise history over the last 30 years, and a lot of that came on the back of the farm system. So, okay, I'll give them that. I would say that there are probably people in the Braves who would look at the Padres and they would go, okay, look at the situation that they're in. Their farm system is bottom tier by every single outlet out there. Their payroll's bloated. They have contracts that you basically can't get out of unless you're swapping them for contracts equally or even worse, awful. And the Braves are better than them. And the Braves are set up in 3 years. The Braves hope that they are still pretty good. And they hope that these young guys are by then becoming a part of the next core, whereas San Diego doesn't have that. So I think that's how they would look at that. Now, I am not defending them in not giving guys up, because you have to get, and I believe they deserve the criticism, and I think it's more than fair. And if I was a fan, I would be really pissed off. Can you say that on here?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you can say this is my show. You can say whatever you want. It's my show.
Let's do it. But if I was a fan, I'd be absolutely furious by this. So everyone, I'm on all the fan side on as far as that goes. Now we can break down who didn't move, who did move, because it's a segue here. I'm sure we'll get into different guys, but like Jose Soriano goes, and that was a really nice get, the infielder, right?
Hard to know.
Yeah, the kid. A lot of people are really high on him, and a couple other nice pieces too. We're going to debate what is the Braves equivalent, but in Casey Mize' case, the kid that the Padres took right around when the Braves took Caminetti is the guy that they end up giving up. The Braves were not going to trade Caminetti for Casey Mize. So, look, it's tough because, and Alex said it on the Zoom. He said some variation of, we made a bunch of prospects available. He was trying to make it clear they were not just prospect hugging like they'll get accused of. But without us necessarily knowing what guys are going for, without us knowing what some of the asks were, it's tough to say. Now, all that being said, since the winter, they did not get an impact starter they needed over the winter. They did not get the impact starter they needed now. And it very well could come back to bite them in October. And there are other teams who have acquired quality pitching in that time, whereas they haven't. So you can just leave it at that it just feels like a missed opportunity.
Yeah, they had a chance to do it and they didn't. But to your point, it wasn't sacred cows through the whole organization. I have the quote here. I went and found it. Where's it here? People asked about a lot of our top players, and there's a bunch that we made available for certain players that we felt were impact difference making guys. And then there were other times that we were asked for some of the guys that we said no. And AA specifically mentioned at the top that there was like 2 impact additions that they identified. And he mentioned Tarik Skubal by name, which again, Alex doesn't always mention names. It feels like it's pretty safe to mention or to assume that the other one was Jacob deGrom. We got the reporting that he invoked his no trade clause. We don't know how far along that went, but we do know that Atlanta was on the limited one that he had. I think the biggest question that a lot of people have come out of this with is, if you targeted deGrom and you didn't get deGrom, how was there not a plan B and C and D? And I don't know. I'm sure there was, but I don't think we're ever going to know the way to answer that question. That it almost feels like they had the guys that were available, they had the guys that weren't, and then none of the valuations lined up. Is that the impression that you got? Because for me, it was like, we wanted to make a deal, we had options, but the guys they asked about, we didn't want to trade that caliber of prospect for that caliber of pitcher. Yeah,
so we'll take what we know. Okay, so he said that in his view, there was 2 like high impact, however he described it, starters.
Yeah.
One of them was Skubal. It's pretty obvious the other was deGrom.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get to the point. I know they've been interested in deGrom for quite a while. There was talk about them having checked in on him a while back. There's been steady interest there, I guess how I would describe it.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not privy to necessarily what happened in the last day, but I can, putting 2 and 2 together, if he invoked his no trade clause, something was happening, or something was pretty close to happening, or there was groundwork. So do you have a pivot at that point? That's pretty late in the process, but okay, so you don't get the deGrom thing done. Where do you pivot from there? He tells us that there was only 2 high-level impact starters. So basing it off that, he viewed everyone else a tier under. You pivot to Detmers. Okay, I'm just using this as an example. Okay, you pivot to Detmers. What if you're paying whatever they end up asking? And the word was that he would have gone for more than Soriano. If the Braves did not view him as that level of a starter, is that the price you're paying? I don't know the answer, and some fans might say, F it, do it, right? Because you have this window, and if you like Detmers enough, there's a lot of people who think Detmers could be like a high-end 2, right? There's a lot of people who really like him. And then I went over the Mize price. So I think your question's valid, and honestly, I think that's what everyone's wondering is, okay, you try on deGrom, you don't get deGrom for whatever reason, excuse me, where's the pivot? because you needed, because Tyler Molly, say what you want about, okay, he's fine, he'll pave the path to October. Where is that number 2 guy behind Chris Sale? And I've mentioned this before too. You don't know how much longer you have of Chris Sale. For as great as he looks, the injury history, the age, and then obviously next year there's a lot of uncertainty there, dude. So
yeah,
it's tough because it just, again, you can talk through each scenario. It just feels like they left so much meat on the bone here. And if it wasn't going to be deGrom, I think everyone's wondering, why could it not have been plan B or plan C?
Yeah. And I think maybe the lack of detail there is, there are some people who are going to be mad no matter what. And that's, if that's your feelings, you're perfectly valid. I do think that extra detail could maybe help some of us who want to just understand what happened, maybe understand a little bit better. But there's something that came up in the press conference a ton that I want to get your opinion on. The quote, "We know our organization better than anybody," because I think there's 2 ways to interpret that. And I want to get your thoughts on that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby joined by Gabe Burns of the AJC, breaking down the trade deadline that wasn't, we know our own organization better than anybody. He said it a couple different times in the press conference. And what I'm trying to understand is perspective A, that's a reference to the skill level of the prospects that were available. Because I've said it before, both here and different shows, he's pretty good at knowing which guys to move and which guys to keep, right? We talk about the Dodgers are really good with that. And I feel like the Braves are as well. But the other part of that makes me wonder, is that also confidence in our internal options to replace what you weren't able to get at the trade deadline? And I can't figure out, is this confidence in the prospects and knowing their value? Or is this confidence in the roster and the guys that you have in the room to step up in October and still let you make a postseason run?
Yeah, I think it could be both. I agree with you. Some of that's open to your interpretation, right? But
yeah,
prospects-wise, they are so excited about the outlook of this farm system right now.
Yeah.
And look, the Hartman breakout came out of nowhere, basically. But you look, and it's like they're back. They have several guys that they feel like could be part of this next era, this next core, and they're not going to be eager to part with any of those guys. And I know a lot of people listening to this are rolling their eyes because they're like, again, it goes back to you have to give to get. If the Dodgers are willing to do this. Now, the Dodgers are a unique situation. I understand that they can withstand, obviously, getting rid of more prospects. But yeah, look, we crushed them because they were confident in their internal options in spring, and they're doing it again. And I criticized them for the Bassett thing.
Yep.
They had no interest in Giolito. It was tough because did they miss out on those guys? I criticized them for not doing something over the winter. I stand by that, and I'm going to criticize them now because I feel like they should have done more. I can understand the reluctance to part with certain prospects. I can understand on a case-by-case basis why it was difficult to get some of these deals done, but
yeah,
they think, for better or for worse, they really think long haul with some of this stuff. And they're on an amazing going on a decade run, and they believe that they can continue extending it. And the pushback would be you could really increase your chances if you just add that second starting pitcher, if you just add another guy here, if you add another guy there. And the bottom line is they did not deem the cost to be worth whoever it is. And it's one of those things that, you and I can sit here and we can agree on it. We can disagree on it. We can praise them. We can criticize them. We can cuss them out. We can get on our knees and pray to them about how genius they are. But it's just, we're going to figure it out in time. I will say this. If they get bounced early in the wild card round, assuming that they don't catch Milwaukee or LA, and part of the reasons they're starting pitching, Alex is going to get obliterated. He's taking it today. He's going to get obliterated. Yeah. And I would assume that he would understand it and everyone in the organization would understand it. So we just need to see how it plays out.
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part is it's easy. And I think the natural reaction of a lot of fans I've noticed is to assume that this means that's the likely outcome in October. And the thing is, we don't actually know that yet. And so we have this decision, and on its face, the decision looks wrong, but we don't necessarily know if it actually is. And I think that's what's hard. I do want to get your unique perspective here. You were covering the team in 2021, and I've seen some of the more not enthusiastic, some of the more hopeful Braves fans making a parallel from this season to 2021 as far as the pitching and what you had in the postseason is concerned. You had two, Tucker Davidson and Dylan Lee started World Series games for you. Do you remember the conversation going into that postseason about the rotation being a liability, or what? Do you remember the sentiment at that time about the pitching staff then? And is there any parallels we can take to it to now?
It was, I'll say this. Yes, I think it's very dangerous to invoke 21. It just honestly, it was a baseball miracle for one.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I word it when I talk to people. Like, people ask about the experience, and you go back to that trade deadline, and no one was expecting any of that out of any of those guys, right? It was truly the perfect storm, one of the more improbable runs we will ever see, not just in baseball, but really in any sport. It was incredible. Every time I talk about it, I'm like, I cannot believe, I'm so blessed that I got to cover it. But it reminds you that anything can happen in baseball, but at the same time, it's like the Dodgers have won the last couple of years, and they beat the Blue Jays and Yankees. They didn't beat this upstart small market team. Every now and then you'll see the Rays get in or whatever. Things can align. I'll say this. I think they have the talent for things to align, right? Yeah. On the most surface level of this conversation, do you have enough talent to win the World Series? My answer is yes. Do you have enough talent in the rotation to win the World Series? I think that's questionable. Yeah. And it's going to take – we've seen Bryce Elder have these runs where it's like, wow, look at that. We've seen it out of certain guys here, and they're going to have to patch it together. I think if your bullpen is healthy, then you could really do something, right? And we saw how important that was in 21, and they rode that bullpen to the titles. It's a cop-out answer here. It's tough for me to compare anything to that just because it was so fluky. And I will say the injection of new energy, Jock, those guys, I think that mattered. Mm-hmm. And I really, talking to guys that were on that team, I remember Dansby said, I want to say it was even right when they won the division. It was really that Western road trip in September. They had a 3-city trip, San Francisco, Phoenix, San Diego. That's when they really started to, I think, believe that they could really do something. You'll probably get different answers from different people, but that was Dansby's answer then.
Yeah.
So we'll see. The book is – there's a lot to write here. This team could catch fire in mid-September, figure some stuff out. We'll see. But it's an interesting thought. I will say if this team were to win it, they were on the surface, there's more core talent than that one had.
Yeah. I think about that outfield in 2021, and I think about your center field situation versus what you have now, right? Having Ronald versus not having Ronald for half the season, then I do agree. This core feels like they're better prepped. It's that rotation. And I've noticed it came up a couple weeks ago. I think it was maybe he was on one of the radio stations. It came up again today. And for everybody who's not sure, we're recording this on Monday night. He talked about mapping out the 27 ounce. And to me, it feels like, and this is all kind of speculation, but we've seen Walt Weiss be a little more aggressive with going to the pen and chasing the win. And now we've seen bullpen additions. We've seen the investment in the bullpen they've made the last couple seasons. It feels like an acknowledgement that, hey, in October, you maybe, and I think Alex even alluded to this, you don't necessarily have to have 3 stud starting pitchers because starters are used so differently in the postseason. I do think, obviously, that's maybe a little bit of a coping mechanism, I think. But it does feel like your bullpen, provided you get Robert Suarez back, has the talent to shorten games, take advantage of the off days you have in these series, and just do it that way, similar to what you ended up doing in 21. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. It's just going to be, again, once you don't – it's easy to say that once you don't get the starter. It's like, here's how, that's that's a good point. If they trade for Skubal, it'll be like, hey, look at that. We have Sale and Skubal in a postseason series now. But no, that's exactly right. And obviously, I think Fuentes is an X factor there too, right? Depending on what you end up with him. I would just say I hope these guys get there in good shape because they've had to lean on a lot. They've had to lean on these guys a lot, and that's why you go out and that's why you add to the bullpen. That's why you add another starter. You need these guys to be fresh when it matters.
And AA actually brought up about Suter, about the fact that he can throw strikes, he can cover bulk, pitch the next day. the fact that he can give you so many innings and he's so reliable, I think that's an underrated part of this whole deadline. But when we come back, I want to get your thoughts real quick on some of the other moves, right? The confidence in Jim Jarvis, the Ha-Seong Kim thing, bringing Sean Murphy back. We'll talk about that next right here on Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby hanging out with Gabe Burns of the AJC. We got a flurry of moves on Monday night as well. They DFA'd Jorge Mateo to give Ha-Seong Kim a spot back, but said that Jim Jarvis is going to stick as the shortstop. More than likely, I don't think he had talked about it with Weiss yet, but kind of Alex voluntarily praised Jim Jarvis. You've been around the team. You've been in the clubhouse. His addition feels like it was maybe not, I guess the contribution wasn't expected, but it feels like he's really integrated with this team and they legitimately see the value there in the clubhouse, there in the front office of what Jim Jarvis can do.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been a pretty good feel-good story here, what he's provided. And his teammates really like him. He's a good dude. He looks more like he would be like sitting next to me in the press box than being out there, right? And
Yeah.
No, it's been cool. And you need that. Over the course of a year, you need some, even if they don't sustain it, you need some guys to uplift you in moments that you need to give you a little bit more optionality when it comes to lineups, when it comes to your bullpen and all that kind of stuff. I think it's the right decision. Look, Kim, to be honest with you, it would have made sense to me to just move on.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the plan is there and how long the leash is, because if it doesn't get better, it's a sunk cost, right? It is what it is. And if there was an opportunity that Alex said that they didn't discuss moving on, if there was an opportunity to trade him or something, you'd have to eat the money. It was really complicated, right? So I think they're making the right decision. Kim will have an opportunity in a spot role, basically, to try to get himself right, get his season going again. And look, it's a bummer for him, man. Honestly, it's been the last couple of years have been a bummer for him. But this is a guy who turned down a multi-year offer from the A's to take this kind of pillow 1-year contract here. He's a Boris client. And honestly, it's been a disaster, right? So it can get better. The Braves will hope it gets better. He hopes it gets better, but we'll see. I don't think it would have resonated well in the clubhouse if you were going to wind up Kim comes back and you give him that job. Jarvis deserves to roll with it, at least for right now.
Yeah, and I do think that clubhouse chemistry is one of the things we hear Atlanta talk about. Kind of the core competency of the Atlanta Braves, I'd argue, is that clubhouse. You don't have the issues with, like you hear in other cities, not going to name names, but totally talking about the New York Mets here, right, where they're fighting in the clubhouse. They had disagreements. Yeah. You don't hear that with Atlanta, and I do think that plays a factor, right? These guys are playing for each other, and they do enjoy being there. Thinking about this deadline, part of me is wondering how much of this – I felt like Alex talked about future value a lot. And what I'm trying to figure out, and I think this is getting back to the prospect conversation, but is there an opportunity – these prospects that you saved, right, your top prospects, your Cam Cameron and guys like that, is there an opportunity to see them possibly as soon as the end of next year? Or is this something where if you were to take away from future Braves teams, you're taking away from a 28 or a 29? Because to me, I think some of the criticism I've seen is you want to win this year, those guys are 2 or 3 years away. Is that maybe the right way to look at this? Or is it just organizationally as a whole, maybe those guys are useful this winter for a trade?
I think that's very fair. And I think that if you look at this as saying you've got Ronald you got the team option years, and then you have Ozzie, that's another good team option, 1 more year left of that. Sale is 37 years old. Yeah. So if you want to look at it this way of we need to maximize these next 2 or 3 years, then to me, there's no question you move off some of them. The Braves organizationally, they just, for better or worse, the all-in thing, they don't do it. And this is not me even talking to anyone. This is like, just guys, you follow the team, you watch the team. It's just not what they do. And again, I say for better or for worse, sometimes you're thankful, like Alex brought up, he had the opportunity to trade Drake Baldwin and he would have acquired a frontline starter. He did not do it. It paid off. Yeah. I'm sure that these guys talk about that kind of stuff. I'm sure there's other opportunities where maybe it was like you could have moved Nacho earlier. Or some of these guys that didn't really work out. It's like you could have moved him earlier. The Braves hung on to him for too long until his value deteriorated. So there's different versions of it, but ultimately the whole all-in, they took advantage of the Chris Sale situation because his value was shot. The Boston media was hounding him, get this guy out of here, all that kind of stuff, and he was ready to pounce on it. So it's not in their, they are always looking at sustainability. And the bottom line, and they're not going to say this, they value the sustainability over multiple years over maximizing a 2 or 3 year window. And we know that because it's how they continue to operate, and it's how they operated here. And I'm not saying they could have gotten Skubal, because it seems like Detroit was pretty set on working out a deal with LA there. It just seems like that was just, but there's been an opportunity cost. I would just say that they value these guys that they think are going to be Braves for 7, 8, 9 years and bridge as some of these other guys are aging out. And they think that they've done, other than Houston and the Dodgers, they are the definition of sustainability. And they take a lot of pride in that. And again, for better or for worse, because I'm not even defending this approach. I'm just saying that clearly how they look at it.
Yeah, that to me is the comparison I make a lot is the Boston Red Sox. And you look at how they've had seasons where they've won the whole thing. They've had seasons where they had a losing record, and it wasn't because of historic injuries like we had last year. It was because of just the team is not good. And it's a lot of guys moving in, guys moving out, a lot of variability. And to me, it's a floor over ceiling approach, right? If you push all in, you're betting on the ceiling of that team in that season, but you're sacrificing future floor. And I think so much in baseball, draft talk, prospect talk, this always comes back to floor versus ceiling. It's just an interesting little quirk of how baseball works. But a final few minutes with you here. You also covered the Braves prospects for Baseball America. And I want to ask about, other than Eric Hartman, who's been the biggest surprise player for you this season where it came out of nowhere? And I have a name. I want to see if I'm right.
Ooh, oh my gosh. I'd probably have to really think about it.
Okay.
Give me your name.
Connor Essenberg is somebody who came up for me as far as a guy that has I'm not going to say come out of nowhere. Obviously, he's been very popular, but somebody who's doing that thing where he puts it all together. He got 61 games last year and did well. I think it was like a 278 average. But this year, the power's been coming, and it feels like Atlanta's done a really good job under Rennet Shaw of finding those prep players that are young for the class from a cold weather area, any of those reasons for them to have extra development in front of them. And it's paying off in a way that I can't remember seeing the Braves organization develop young hitting prospects in a long time.
Yeah, I completely agree. And also on the Hartman front, what a steal.
20th round.
Yeah, and he says, like, I went to Rome a while back, talked to him, and he's just not that much exposure. And sometimes you just benefit from that, right? Anybody could have gone to Cleveland, right? It was sometimes it's good to be lucky too, right? I think the Braves would even tell you, like, some of these guys, it's luck. Honestly, I'll tell you, like, before he got hurt, I really like Briggs McKenzie.
Yeah.
Before he was sidelined, he's been sidelined for a bit now, I think. But even talking to him and seeing him, I can understand why. And I know we're not talking position players. I'm back on a pitcher, but I can understand why the Braves really wanted to keep him from going to LSU, which LSU, by the way, must really hate the Braves.
I was about to say they've lost three big kids between Caminiti and McKenzie, and now I think was it Hirschhorn was the one that was there?
It was It's not good. It's not good content when we're both sitting here thinking, but yeah, there was another one. But yeah, I like McKenzie. I think they might have something there too. True North Carolinian. He's a fun guy to talk to. I think whenever he eventually gets up, I think Braves fans are going to like him.
Yeah, and just a great thing there. All right, final bit with here. Have you been to all 30 ballparks yet?
You know what's funny is I haven't. So my beat tenure was really weird. There was like 1 year,
right?
It was like so Dave O'Brien was my mentor. I was basically his backup at the AJC. I went from intern to basically his backup to taking over the beat when he left. And 1 year I did 76 of the 81 road games. So I got a lot of them then.
Yeah.
But then COVID hit and we didn't travel. So we didn't travel in 2020. We didn't travel. First half of 21, we didn't even travel, which is crazy as I look back. So I actually had a lot of experiences robbed from me. Like I just made it to Fenway a year ago for the first time.
Yikes. I haven't been on the beat in 4 years. You just now made it to Fenway.
Yeah, I just made it to Fenway a few years ago.
Well, in your defense, Justin liked to go to Fenway because they had a big gluten-free section there. He was big. He and I talked about that. So, yeah.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. So, and Justin was traveling. And I honestly, I have a lot of different stuff going on at my job that I didn't necessarily want to travel as much anymore, and like personal life, just settling in. Because let me tell you, that lifestyle is something. I did it when I was early to mid 20s and single. Me out. Godspeed to all these guys like Bo who have been doing it for 20 years. It's amazing to me. And you have to be on baseball. Like obviously I love baseball and I love talking baseball, covering it, but I love football too. And so I needed the variety in my life. But man, what a time to just be around all those guys, to see the ballparks, to see the cities, man. That pretty special time in my life.
Sounds like it. All right, final question here. Favorite road ballpark and why?
Okay, so I actually have a couple of answers for this.
Okay.
Dodger Stadium is most special to me.
Okay.
And I know a lot of people hate that place, and it's old, and people hate the Dodgers. I get all that. That's my favorite place to cover a game. That's the most meaningful to me. My favorite ballpark objectively is San Francisco. That is not, you're going to get the same, you're going to get most of the same answers. Pittsburgh, same, like you're going to get the same, Fenway, Wrigley, whatever.
San Diego,
San Diego's awesome. Wrigley's not great for us working wise. Really tight in that press box. It's not my favorite place to work, but it's cool. Nah, man, San Francisco, we used to, me and Kevin McAlpin, who was with the team and traveled when I was on the beat, we would go out and we would watch the first few innings of a day game when Bumgarner was pitching. We'd watch it from the stands. You have the breeze blowing. That place is awesome. And like, I never cared about the Giants. Like I grew up a big Braves fan. I never cared about the Giants. A part of me always wants them to be good just so that place can be packed. And like the idea of us ever covering like a playoff series there in October, it would just be awesome, man. That place is pretty sweet. I
will say Michael Harris's first Grand Slam, not a pretty nice place to getting it there and putting it in the water. I think that was fun. Kind of
the perfect place for it.
Like this thing was last year maybe because it was so hard to get the ball. The guy that gets all the balls in the water got the ball, and it was
that's right. I actually totally good memory on your part. I totally forgot about all that. Yeah, I remember that story.
It was that guy. That'll do it. Gabe, thanks for your time. Thanks for being here. Welcome back anytime you want to come.
Absolutely, and I will not. By the way, like guys. This is night right now. I look exhausted. Like we were recording and then I had to step away to take a call. And then I left him hanging for an hour and a half. I promise next time, at least I'll look a little more formal, maybe, even though as informal as this might be.
There you go. If you like the video, please subscribe. We'll see you guys next time on Braves Today.